If you're looking to buy an air fryer for a small family of 2 or 3 people, you've come to the right channel. I've personally reviewed and cooked in dozens of air fryers over the last 2 years, and in this video you can find out the pros and cons of some of the best-selling air fryers for small families. So to begin, 2 of the 4 air fryers that you will see in this video were gifted to me by the manufacturer, but I haven't been paid or even asked to make this video, and I'll flag up which ones were gifted to me when we get to them. Secondly, if you're new to this channel, I make weekly videos about home appliances, and you could really help me by hitting the subscribe button. Also, if you find the video helpful, hit the thumbs up at any point. So here are the highlights of my reviews of 4 best-selling 6-litre air fryers. The dual blaze isn't new. In fact, it's been around since 2016. It's a single drawer 6.4 litre smart air fryer, so it works with an app. But if that doesn't appeal to you, you can also use it without ever having to connect it to Wi-Fi, just like a standard air fryer. If you want to use it as a smart air fryer, when you first get it, you'll need to download the VSync app. Choose Add a Device, and then press and hold the power button on your air fryer so it can connect to your phone. Then in the app you can choose from a range of recipes and set the air fryer up with the correct time and temperature direct from your phone. You can then keep an eye on the progress of your cooking in the app whilst you're off doing something else somewhere else in the house. The air inlet on this model is on the top at the rear, and the outlet is on the back. There's also additional vents on the bottom of this air fryer because of that lower heating element. So the standard advice applies about pulling it out from the wall when you're cooking. The crisper plate on this has a slightly unusual design, which I think makes it look like it's permanently smiling at you. However, those big eyes can be a little bit of a pain, as even quite large things like prawns can slip through the hole while you're cooking, and then you find yourself having to lift a hot crisper plate to try and retrieve them. The dual blaze has 12 cooking functions. The 6 on the left of the display are for different types of food. The 6 on the right are for different cooking settings. So starting on the right, the cooking settings use the top and bottom heating elements in slightly different ways. So you have air fry, which is full power on top and on bottom. Then reheat, which is full power on top with low heat below. Roast, which is medium power on top and full power on the bottom. Keep warm, which is medium heat above and below. Bake, which is low power on top and full power on the bottom. And broil, which is full power on the top and no heat below. And this setting is particularly recommended when cooking oily food to reduce smoke. Now on the left hand side you've got those food specific presets which are for particular types of food. So you have chicken, steak, seafood, veggies, fries and frozen. I did some research, but I couldn't find out which heating elements those food specific presets use. So if you want more control over where your heat is coming from, you're probably better sticking with the cooking settings on the right. You may notice that there's no dehydrate setting on the dual blaze, and that's because the lowest temperature on this model is 80 Celsius and its maximum, by the way, is 205. You can alter the time and temperature while the program is running, and there's a separate button for turning on and off and for starting the cooking program. The basket and crisper plates are both non-stick and dishwasher safe, and as you would expect, cooking pauses automatically when you pull the drawer out and resumes when you put it back in. Now obviously the thing I was most interested in finding out was whether that lower heating element actually makes any real difference in a real kitchen scenario when you're cooking, given that the heat it produces can't really circulate because it's trapped by the drawer. So as well as cooking a variety of regular meals in it over the last couple of weeks, I also did 3 side-by-side tests with the dual blaze next to my Kasori dual basket. The first test I did was chocolate cake. I made a batch of batter and then divided it exactly in half in 2 identical tins and cooked both cakes at 160 for 25 minutes on bake. These are the two finished cakes and they are pretty much identical. You have the jewel basket on the left and the jewel blaze on the right. There's no difference in the rise or in fact in the speed that they cooked. Next, I wanted to try pastry to see if the bottom heating element made a noticeable difference to the bottom of a quiche. So I made two identical spinach, feta and tomato tarts. These little tins were my mum's discovery, by the way, and they fit in most air fryers, including jewel basket ones, and they are perfect for two people. Both quiches were cooked at 160 Celsius for 25 minutes, the same as the cakes. And this is what the bottom of those quiches looked like after cooking. Jewel blaze first, and then jewel draw second. Now, admittedly, they probably could have done with slightly longer cooking, but the important part is the bottoms are just the same. The bottom heating element hasn't made any difference to how well cooked the pastry is. And the final test was homemade fries. The jewel blaze sells itself on being a no-shake air fryer. So I wanted to test that out. 2 batches of chips I did, one in the jewel blaze, one in the jewel basket. I soaked them in cold water for 15 minutes to remove the starch, and then I cooked them on the fry setting in the jewel blaze at 195 and 195 and roast in the jewel basket. First 5 minutes with no oil, just to dry them out. Then I added oil, and then in the last 5 minutes I cranked up the temperature to 205 on both the air fryers. The jewel drawer got a couple of shakes, the jewel blaze did not, and here are the results. And it's really interesting to see that there's a noticeable difference with the jewel blaze, and the chips are definitely brown on the bottom despite the lack of shaking. So here's what I think. The jewel blaze is a great air fryer, but remember how I mentioned at the start of this video that this model has been around for 8 years. And what I find really interesting is that in all of that time, no other manufacturer that I'm aware of has stolen this idea of putting 2 heating elements in an air fryer, which, if it was a brilliant idea, someone surely would have by now. Clearly, the jewel blaze performs better with no shaking than other air fryers. So if you want a model where you can just stick the food in, control the cooking on an app, and walk away without having to change the temperature on the machine or shake the basket, then this is the air fryer for you. But it's important to say it's also not a miracle worker, and the difference with most dishes was barely noticeable. So if you're looking at this as an upgrade, it probably isn't worth actually trading in your air fryer to get one with 2 heating elements over one with 1. The one thing you may know about Philips when it comes to air fryers is that they lay claim to being the company that introduced the world to air fryers with their rapid air technology, which they developed with a Dutch inventor. You can see evidence of that patented technology in the starfish design, which you'll see on their air fryer logo and on the bottom of all their air fryer drawers. The swirling raised pattern is supposed to encourage air circulation and cook food faster, but it also has the downside of making it harder to cook directly in the drawer. Now, I appreciate that not everyone wants to do that, but Philips are specifically marketing this 2000 series air fryer as having 13 functions, which they say includes stir fry and saute. And the truth is that these air fryers with that raised pattern on the bottom of the drawer simply aren't as suitable for that kind of cooking as models with flat bottoms. Aside from the saute and stir fry functions, on the control panel there are 8 different presets, which are for frozen fries, homemade fries, drumsticks, meat chops, an oddly specific function which is called breakfast, which is for cooking 3 eggs and 2 pieces of toast, muffins, fish fillets, and finally vegetables. As far as I can ascertain, there is no variation in fan speed between these presets, so they are purely pre-programmed times and temperatures. The maximum temperature on this model is 200 Celsius and the minimum is 60 Celsius, which is right at the top end of the range for dehydrating, making this model, for a second time, less than ideal for one of the 13 cooking functions that Philips say it has. If you're concerned about non-stick coatings, there's no details of the coating used for the surface of the drawer or for the crisper plate. However, Philips do say that both are dishwasher safe. This being a Philips air fryer, it doesn't come with a full paper handbook, just a QR code on a leaflet. But on a positive note, this air fryer is really quiet. Philips might not have paid out for the privilege of having that Quiet Mark certification, which you'll see on some appliances. But the decibel meter does not lie. It peaks at about 57 dB in my home test. And if you're somebody who really hates the beeping that you get on things like Ninja air fryers, well, this air fryer chirps rather than beeping at the end of its cooking cycle. If you like windows in drawers, this model does have them, although the smaller 4.3 litre version doesn't. It also has a light in the drawer which comes on automatically and then times out after about a minute. Are windows useful? Well, I personally like having them. I think they look kind of cool, particularly when they're lit up and you can see the food cooking. But I also appreciate they aren't hugely practical. They do get dirty and therefore need cleaning. And I have to say, I always seem to revert back to actually pulling the drawer out to check on the contents rather than lowering myself down and peering through the glass. This is Cosori's Turbo Blaze air fryer. It's got 9 different cooking modes with 5 different fan settings, a 6 litre capacity, a big range of cooking temperatures, and a promise that its special DC motor will cook your food faster than other air fryers. Now, first of all, let's tackle this headline of the dual blaze being 46% faster than other air fryers, which is a really big sounding promise. Check the small print, however, because it's not any other air fryer, it's actually one air fryer in particular, the CP158, which is Cosori's 5.5 litre model. Actually my least favourite air fryer I've reviewed so far. So how much faster is it really? Well, I tried some frozen fries in it. The packet on these fries says air fryer cooking time should be 180 degrees for 10 to 12 minutes. And the Cosori instruction booklet for this model air fryer says to cook fries at 200 for 13 to 15 minutes. So I went for something in between, 200 degrees for 12 minutes. And they turned out great. But I don't think that by any stretch we can call that a faster cook. In fact, I tested the fries again at 200 degrees on air fry in my Cosori dual basket. Now, this isn't the model that they got the 46% figure from, but it is an interesting comparison. I got the same result with my fries in 15 minutes, 3 minutes longer than the Turbo Blaze. So in that test, the Turbo Blaze was only 20% faster than the dual basket. Now, all this talk of the air fryer being faster hinges on the fact that the Turbo Blaze has a DC motor. Normally air fryers don't have these because apparently they're a little bit more expensive. It's got 10 presets, of which 9 are different cooking modes. 4 of these are the turbo modes, with the DC motor delivering 5 out of 5 on the fan speed. These are air fry, roast, grill, and frozen. If you're wondering what the difference is between frozen and air fry, the answer is almost nothing. The same fan power, but air fry is 195 degrees and frozen is 200 degrees. I frankly think that there was probably some sort of battle when they were designing this where they really wanted to just call the air fry mode frozen, but then they realised that they couldn't make an air fryer which didn't have an air fry mode, so they created both and separated them by an almost meaningless 5 degrees. The other slower cooker modes on this air fryer are reheat, bake, dehydrate, proof, preheat and keep warm. With all these programs you can alter the time and temperature, but you can't alter the fan speed, so you need to pick an appropriate preset for whatever you're cooking. One of the things that I do love about this model is that it has a visual display of fan speed, so there's no need to consult the instruction book every time you cook or try and remember which setting has which speed. It's right there in front of you. Other good stuff about this model is it has a loose crisper plate rather than the basket which you'll find in the 5.5 litre model, which gives you much more flexibility. And the design of this model just feels better all round, and it's pretty quiet when it's running too. The control panel is of course prone to attracting dust and fingerprints, but it looks great, and this air fryer's small footprint will suit a lot of people. The temperature and fan range on this model also gives added flexibility. You can set it up for anything between 30 degrees and 230 degrees and a timer of between 1 minute and 24 hours. The 5.5 litre by comparison only has a range of 75 Celsius to 205 Celsius. One thing I'm not keen on with this model is the drawer release mode. To open the drawer, you have to press a small button to unlock it. And if you're anything like me, shaking the drawer and constantly checking on the contents is something I do regularly, so I don't really want what feels like a child lock on it. But then again, maybe you have kids and maybe a child lock is exactly what you need. Now, if you're here because you're tossing up between this model and the Dual Blaze, here's a summary of the main differences between the two very similar sounding air fryers. The Dual Blaze has two heating elements, top and bottom, and is Wi-Fi enabled. It has a slightly bigger capacity, is taller than the Turbo Blaze, and slightly more expensive. The Turbo Blaze has just one heating element, a more rounded design. No Wi-Fi, it's slightly deeper front to back but not so tall, and of course has that promise that the DC motor means it cooks faster. The Ninja Pro is a 6.2 litre 2000 watt air fryer made by the UK's top air fryer manufacturer. In the product description for this model, Ninja says it's suitable for 4 people, but based on my experience of cooking with it and the many reviews I've read online, I think this model is best suited to a small family of 2 or 3 people. And as a bonus, if you're new to air fryers, it's got a really good, clear and comprehensive instruction book as well. So the air fryer itself has a pyramid shape designed to maximise surface area in the drawer for cooking. And it comes in 2 choices of trim, either silver or copper. The copper version has an RRP that is slightly higher than the silver one because it comes with a set of silicone tongs, but they are often discounted to exactly the same price, so do check carefully before you buy, depending on which trim you want and whether or not you want the free tongs. Inside the single drawer is a nano ceramic coated crisper plate. It looks square, but it's actually slightly different dimensions across its width and depth, and that enables you to place it in 2 positions in the drawer. With the cutouts to the left and right, you can place it in the lower position, and with the cutouts front and back, it can be placed in the higher position. The lower position is designed for even cooking, and the top position is designed to bake small items or get a bubbling golden top, similar to the way that you would use a grill in a conventional oven. Although having the crisper plate in the higher position creates a big space underneath it, this air fry isn't really designed for stacked cooking with food above and below the crisper plate, unless you are dehydrating, when you can place food in the drawer and on the crisper plate when it's in the lower position. If you want proper stacked cooking in the drawer, Ninja's double stack air fryer, which has a similar footprint to this model, is much better at that because it has heaters at the back rather than overhead like this air fryer does. This Pro model has the same core 6 cooking modes that you'll find on most Ninja appliances, which are max crisp, a fixed high heat setting which runs at 240 Celsius and is designed for using for short periods to add a crispy finish to food. Air fry, which is for foods that you might normally consider deep frying. Roast, for foods you would normally cook in a hot oven. Bake, for foods that you would normally cook in a moderate oven. reheat for reviving leftovers that are crispy rather than limp like they would be in a microwave, and dehydrate, a cool and long cook which runs as low as 40 Celsius, slowly removing moisture from foods over several hours. Between these 6 cooking modes, you'll be able to cook pretty much everything that you would normally make in a conventional oven and a little bit more. Plus, generally, it will do it faster and more cost effectively. This model uses 4p of energy when running for 10 minutes at 200 Celsius. One of the most popular things to cook in an air fryer is a whole roast chicken. I managed to fit one in this model, which was 2.2 kilograms, and it took just under an hour to cook. You can also cook all your frozen food staples like churros, frozen potato snacks, chips, and fish fingers. You can fit a 6-inch square tin in it to cook tray bakes or cake, and you'll get great results cooking chicken breasts, sausages, salmon fillets and quiches, as well as side dishes like roasted broccoli. And you can, of course, do both of those at the same time. 4 of my pudding moulds fit in the drawer comfortably too, as do these aluminium food containers, which are great for batch cooking food, putting it in the freezer and then getting out and cooking 2 or 3 portions in the air fryer. One of the things I really like about the design of this Ninja Pro air fryer over and above the more popular dual drawer Ninja models is that it has real buttons on the control panel rather than the flexible plastic surface that you'll find on the dual drawer, which I think makes it feel more durable.